You keep telling pretty lies. You keep telling pretty lies. Hey, blessings, Danny. I'm just getting set up right now. That's a good day to do a triple goddess spread, especially since we just we're the day after on this weekend, coming into the weekend off of the 13th from Friday. Where is that was funny how you knew that, because the particular drape that I'm working with this time is I was gonna put the Lakshmi out, but the Ganesha one kind of just jumped out, and like I don't know, you must feel like the energy, because like that's actually the one I got laid out. So we're just gonna flow with that. So you know, Ganesha and Lakshmi do work pretty hand in hand with a lot of things. So whereas Lakshmi may be the abundance and seeing success through the abundance, Ganesha is, you know, pushing through those obstacles and making way when the road or the path isn't necessarily clear. You know, so it's almost like that road, that blockbuster, that road opener, that blockbuster type of energy. So I definitely want to delve into that, and just feeling the energy from just this week, you know, because the Friday the 13th, I believe, was on a Libra moon. And like, I don't know, like for me, like that day, like a lot of people were just acting very just off. And, you know, like when we think about Libra energy, Libra being in the moon sign might not always be the most comfortable, because the moon is a place or area of disposition. But when Libra comes into the picture, it's kind of like this objective jury, you know, kind of like when you think of like the judge, and it's this impartialness that goes along with Libra, which is why they're associated with justice, the major arcana of justice, because sometimes you have to just take the energy and see what the energy is, minus the amplification of emotions, or the I guess like the egging on, because emotions are kind of like the egging on of what a base energy is when something is going on. So justice, or Libra, is the sign of objectivity or neutrality. It's like, I'm not going to put my energy, emotional energy behind this until I know for sure if this is intrinsically right or wrong. So when we enter that sign, like especially with yesterday, and then we moved into Scorpio, there was a lot of like weirdness and trying to figure out whether our feelings were valid, and discerning if our feelings are valid. And like the irony of that happening on a day that's associated with the feminine is very interesting, because it really called us to do a double check or a self check and be like, hey, is this how I feel? Is this a valid feeling, or is this coming from somewhere? So it was a lot of checking our personal boundaries and checking to see what's causing these feelings, what's triggering these feelings, and who it is that I want to be. Whether, because goddesses, the goddess energy is active for both men and women. But definitely a very auspicious time for women and a rediscovery. So there's a lot of energy that's been transpiring. We're trying to figure out essentially like how to make the best, not so much the best use of our emotions, but really is how to discern like why these feelings keep happening, why we keep running into these situations, because a lot of people are very robotic right now. It's a lot of missteps, so to speak. It's almost as if people are not necessarily being honest about the feelings that are coming to the surface. And when we deal with Libra, we deal with justice, we deal with a karmic energy, or an energy that's coming back around. So this is also why it's really important to discern what we're feeling during this time. And if we feel erratic, it's usually because we're having difficulty, we're either having difficulty or we're not taking that pause. And there's a lot of external projecting at people who are in alignment from people who aren't in alignment, because it's very difficult during this time to face your shit. So with that being said, like people who are not solid in who they are, who are around these people, especially if you're the like the black sheep in the family, or the people who are just called to do the healing, or the more empathic, there's a lot of leaning on you. And there's wisdom that's really needed during this time. We've forgotten a lot of the old ways, the intuitive things that your spirit is calling to have this knowledge built within yourself. But sometimes when we only focus on one aspect, we focus on the sun energy, the patriarchy, God, things of that nature. We may be missing out on the other half, and this awareness during this time, this calling back to the goddess, is asking us to really connect with our magical energy, our truly powerful, subtle energy, our divinity. So in order to do that, if we're not preaching those things in our practices, or seeing these things instilled in as much prevalence as the masculine things, then we're not going to know those things. We're not going to know about our bodies. We're not going to know about the feminine energy. We're not going to understand these roles, to do the things that we need to really unlearn. So if we're going to honor these days, we need to expand on this energy. So a lot of this activation that we're feeling during this time is us trying to open up to see who we are. There's a lot of people who are trying to activate the fire in themselves. They've been having dreams about fire, or been running into a lot of clashes, whether nightmares or dreams about fire, and that's because your spirit is trying to activate you, is trying to activate the fire within you, trying to burn out useless energy. Some of you are trying to activate and raise your vibration so that you can burn out the vaccine that's already going through your body. There's a fire that's just trying to activate so that you can purge lower vibrational energies from your system. So as we're dealing with the triple goddess, I'm doing a triple goddess spread because it's definitely long overdue. We need to understand the phases that we're experiencing during this time. Because honestly, when we have the moon in Libra, it does give us the pros and cons. It gives us that objectivity. It gives us the ability to kind of put our emotions or the shit that can block us in a box so that we can see what the fuck is going on. So we're having this clarity. We're still dealing with the Venus in Virgo. So when we came off of Venus in Leo to Virgo, there was the need for us to get serious about the values and what we want to bring into fruition in this life. So the harmony between the moon in Libra and the Venus in Virgo has some of you waking up to epiphanies where it's like, okay, am I really getting what it is that I want in my space, or am I being hard enough or critical enough of the things that are stopping me or hindering me from those things, or am I just in my head about it? So that Libra energy kind of came in and helped you to see a little bit more clarity if you haven't been buying into imposter syndrome and shame. But also because we're getting ready to go into the Virgo season, and the Aquarius moon is coming up, there's really a lot of rapid fire thoughts that are moving through your energy field. So in the maiden position, because the maiden is just really like that inexperience or that youth, it's the enthusiasm in that life. We're in a beginning stage, so there's just a lot of things that are transpiring. And since we have Mama Killa with the moon, this definitely is dealing a lot with the phases that we're experiencing during this time, and it's calling into the awareness to look at our space and our environment, both our metaphysical energy space and how that's mirroring in our physical space. And are we sticking to the same thing, or are we actually adjusting to the current phase of the moon that we're in at this time, so that we can understand the state of water, or the state that we need to be adaptable to? Sometimes there's just simply just things that we're not seeing. There's things that we need to let go. And in the present moment, especially as we're building momentum, the mother is that prime energy. It's when we feel at our best. It's when we're generally fertile, or we can produce something of substance, whether it's a baby or an idea, or there's just an abundance that's existing within the state. And we have Bronwyn coming up, so that's a forgiveness. So a lot of you are struggling with mental thoughts, are very heavy in the head, because there's a lot that you need to let go. And some of you are having this rediscovery. And there's a bittersweetness to a rediscovery, because when we have a rediscovery, or we have this understanding of something that we either gave up on, jumped ship on, or just stopped committing to because it just got too hard, we got distracted, we got lost, we forgot ourselves, whatever the fuck it may be, when it's presented to us that we can actually achieve this thing, and we see elements come up that are like, dog, you mean I really could have did that? And then we have shame because we're like, damn, I started doing this other shit that was not really something I'm proud of, but I just settled. And then we don't know how to go back to that thing, even though somebody's saying like, hey, you can come along. But it's like, no, I already start doing this, and this is how I'm seen now. And it's like, it be feeling guilty. You feel guilty because it's like, you feel like you should have just committed and you don't deserve to get on this ship because you weren't consistent with it to begin with. But it's okay. Like, you have to own that present moment for what it is now. A lot of this forgiveness has a lot to do with creating that space within the heart, because there's something that you could birth, whether it's to birth out that negative energy that you need to release to the universe so that it can be devoured. Because again, divinity, the universe, the cosmos, God and Goddess loves to devour the darkness. They love to eat up your traumas. They love to eat up your pain and sufferings and the elements of the past that you hold on to, because that allows light to come out. Cosmos loves light. Divinity loves light. But when there's shadows and darkness within your soul and within yourself and within your energy field, then it dims you. You don't shine. So it wants to eat that darkness. It lives for that shit. So there's some forgiveness that has to take place in order for you to open up. So a lot of people that you've been running around have been really doing a lot of reflecting. You're running into people who are looking at you different. And just personally, when you're trying to elevate and when you're changing the way that you do things, people will have to look at themselves. So sometimes your growth is actually an infringement on what people think that should be the reality, whether what they feel that you should be or whether they just feel that humanity or just people are capable of. So we have the sign Ein of adaptability. So definitely dealing with the fairy goddesses. We're dealing with the crone phase. So, but the fact that the crone phase is not a very adapting phase because it comes with wisdom. It comes with a lot of experience. The crone has been through a lot of things. The crone has experienced a lot of things, and you can't really trick the crone out of their experience. You can't take away the wisdom that they've experienced. So having Ein come up, especially with the crone having the rigidity, they have the entitlement or the ability to have that rigidity because they've experienced so many things, so they don't have to move. But showing Ein here shows that there's even room for mastery has not been attained yet, and there's some malleability that there's a letting go just between the messages between Mama Killa and the moon state. The moon state is a flowing state, and forgiveness is an opening up or an expanding or and opening doors to let go. Because when we're not forgiving, we're holding on, we're keeping things very tight, very gripped. So your heart is very strained, probably getting very short breath, very hollow breaths. When you see people, you don't smile. You've been wearing your mask for forever, so you've gotten out of the habit of smiling and realizing that, oh shit, I'm not wearing a mask now. So I forgot social norms. So I'm not really expressing emotion. I'm not really expressing this energy. I'm holding on to things. I've lost people. I've lost connections. I've lost privileges, lost the ability to travel. I've lost money. So there's a lot of things where it's like there's no room for forgiveness. So there's definitely a big call here between shifting and opening up and adapting, that within the energy field of the Maiden, Mother, and Crone, that every phase that you're experiencing during this time, there's some things in the past that you need to allow a space for enthusiasm to look at your situations different and understand that some of these things you couldn't have did shit about. It was going to change regardless. It was in a waning phase where you might not have been seeing all the things in the elements very clearly. So there's some forgiveness you got to have for yourself. When you don't know now what you knew then. Your higher self is not judging you. So why are you, the future now present self, holding yourself accountable for past shit that you couldn't have? You did the best you did in your ignorance or lack thereof. Whether these choices were premeditated or not, there was still an ignorance that existed during that time and the knowledge that you have now, unless you're just an old fool and didn't learn shit between that time and now. There's a level of understanding that you have to allow for yourself because you just didn't simply know. So it's time to move on. It's time to adjust the situation, and then focusing on the past and focusing on those things that aren't quite right. We aren't actually adjusting to the present moment and actually seizing these moments. There's a reason that Friday the 13th has so much energy, and people are trying to make sense, get their signals, their antennas right, because there's a lot of distractions. There's a lot of distractions within the your personal environments, interpersonal environments, especially the workplace, as well as the oversaturation of the negative news. So really it's a call for you to develop a new relationship with self. Sorry, a lot of sexual energy. So we're trying to create new relationships, new establishments with self, and a double confirmation, seeing two orange, very vibrant, very, very vibrant sacral chakra energies, one dealing with relationships, a double confirmation for relationships. So we really have to change our viewpoint of acceptance. So a lot of you dealing with what you're in your prime now, and a lot of you in your mother phase, are not necessarily trusting your capabilities and your gifts. So that's locking you in place, because when you step into the role of the mother, whether you're a literal mother or just symbolically in the nurturer role, when you step into that role, you don't get to turn off when you are a nurturer. You are a mother. Once you give birth, there's a connection that you put out into the world. You've given a physical form to your inner child, or you just step into the role of raising and rearing inner children. Sometimes you may not see your gifts because you're always giving it away. You're giving away your breast milk. You're giving away your body. You're giving away all this energy. You're suppressing your emotions. So there's this kind of, being a mother is this kind of this punch into work clock role where you are already programmed biologically to do this, that there's just an acceptance, sometimes an unhealthy acceptance of what it is that you have to do, because you turn off your own feelings or become numb to your own needs because you feel that this is something that's required of you. And many of you are still actually out, not just being mothers, you're out in the world. So it's kind of like, okay, why am I running into this kind of feeling of imposter syndrome? Am I feeling like I'm playing a role that I'm supposed to be? There's something more that I could do. So we might need to forgive ourselves or forgive people that we may hold indirect energy towards, spiteful energy towards, because we didn't know, or we were doing things for other people. We were doing things to satisfy the validation of our parents' happiness, of our husband and our wives' happiness, of our friends and peer pressure's happiness. So we developed these intimate relationships and we didn't trust ourselves. So we were locked in. We didn't have any freedom. So the things that we desire are still sitting there, just running around in our heart. And our heart chakra is just feeling all this energy. So people are snapping. People are coming in, talking on the phone. Like, how you getting service and you on the phone? It's mass culture. I already can't fucking hear you on a normal basis with the mask on. You're walking in, you're vaccined up, so you're already off the shit. And you're on the phone, multitasking, and you want me to read your mind and know what the fuck you want. It's too much entitlement. It's too much shit going on, and everybody's really amped and hyped. That's why there's so much energy here, because there's desires and passions that are fueling you that you want. And when we stepped into this Libra season, we stepped into that Libra moon, which was really just the 2 days, Friday and Thursday, but that the end of the week was just so ramped up. I'm talking cars cutting people off, people trying to get places. It's like, are y'all taking account of y'all energy right now? So it's just rampant, wild and all over the place. So a lot of this activation here also shows an oversaturation, because if we're not holding compassion in the heart, especially seeing these two lower frequencies in the lower 3 dimensions, the root, sacral, and solar plexus, these are very lower base needs. So there's either some fear deposited here, especially if we're not letting go. There's fear deposited here, and fear feeding up to the heart creates resentment and animosity that closes the heart off. So it doesn't allow us to adapt. So really during this time, especially with this being a Scorpio moon today, there's a lot of secrets, there's a lot of feelings that are coming out that people realize that they were holding on to, and we don't really want to keep it in anymore. There's a lot of information that needs to come back out about the triple goddess. There's a lot of information that's coming back into awareness about the feminine wisdom that's needed to empower the collective to really raise the children into this generation. Children are being born and they're having to develop their awareness quicker. They're walking sooner, speaking sooner, and usually like when these things are happening is because like we're being brought into an environment where we're under duress or under extreme condition. So there's a lot that's calling us that we can't really be unaware anymore. Like our passions that are calling and the things that we want to do for fulfillment are literally like holding us. They're burning within our fucking hearts, and we're feeling our throat knotted up or on fire, depending on if we've been honoring and trusting in ourselves and allowing ourselves to move in that momentum. We're creating our own platform. So seeing this triple goddess energy come up is a great sign, because when we honor the goddess, we honor our creative energy, our sexual energy. And a lot of us are so lost because we have no actual attunement, or there's very limited knowledge on the energy of the feminine. So we also have very little knowledge on the understanding of our bodies and what it is our bodies are saying to us when we feel sexual activation, when we feel creative activation. We don't even necessarily know how to channel or have a proper relationship with it. Some of you have very what you actually or authentically enjoy within your body, and what you the Venn diagram, that sliver of what you allow is acceptable between peer pressure and what it is that's just what you would like is so small that you're not enjoying yourself. That little thin sliver of what's acceptable to society, but what you actually enjoy is the equivalent of you just eating fries because that's the only thing on the menu that you are willing to branch out to, and everything else might have onions in it, it might have something in it or sauce in it or just some bullshit. Everything that's acceptable in the peer pressure society, you don't like the shit. You don't like fucking onions. You know, everything that's acceptable on your side, you probably be mixing some shit. It's like ketchup on fucking toast. It's like, well, only I would eat that. So it's a very small sliver of what relationship is actually acceptable that you co-create or manifest within reality. There's a very small sliver of what you actually manifest within reality, because the relationship between what you desire within and what's acceptable with the collective is so small that you are not forgiving yourself. You're not allowing yourself the space to indulge in more of just what you want. So as a result, hyperconformity forces you to be like everybody else. So you don't know who you are. You're like everybody else. And I don't understand the society that we live in where, with everything crumbling, with everything the way it is, and everybody being so fucking backwards, why is it normal to be like everybody else? Like, that shit, if you're sitting comfortably in a society that's crumbling and is just in chaos, and you're functioning well, that's an issue. Like, you should be tripping. Like, you should be like, why am I comfortable? Like, why is this okay? Why is me being like everybody else okay? Like, you know that you're different. So why are you being like everybody else? Why, if it's okay to be like everybody else if you're getting the benefits and you're happy, but you're clearly not happy. You're clearly not happy. There clearly is something that you're missing, because everything is saying connection, desire, missing. I want to manifest something. I want that passion. So you can lie to yourself, but it's there. It's in the energy. It's in the cards. And fuck the cards, it's in the energy. It's in you. Fuck the energy, it's in you. You feel it. You feel the sensation. So this shit is true for you regardless. So why are you not doing anything about it? Why are we just sitting here? Everything is saying create the shift, create the space to allow these things to come into fruition. Knight of Air, Knight of Fire, yeah, Knave of Fire. So a lot of movement, but not necessarily the knowledge to understand what we're dealing with here. So, all right, so we got the Knight of Air, definitely feeling that here. So there's a lot of movement going on, and sometimes when we want something to happen, we're just taking action because we know we need to. A lot of you are moving. There's been a lot of literal and symbolic lane shifting and cutting off, not putting on turn signals, not indicating where you're going, causing near accidents because the way you're moving is not in sync. You're either trying to move too fast or going too slow and causing everybody else to bottle up. So we have to drive at the correct speed. We have to drive at our speed. But with the Knight of Air coming up, there's a lot of swift movement. And the swift movement, it can be very personal. Seeing the swift movement might mean that it's only benefiting you. And if everybody's only benefiting themselves, there's a clash in the collective because we're literally not going to survive like this. So the Divine Feminine coming up into power is necessary because the Divine Feminine is the closest symbolic thing to unconditional love. That's why when you see women and they enjoying each other, they can be all lovey-dovey. When women are children, and they have the sleepovers. When guys have sleepovers, it's at a very young age. You know what I'm saying? But when we get older, it's like, that shit's gay. It's like, because women can naturally give free, like, oh, I love you, let me give you a hug. They kiss on each other. Man is like, whoa, like, hey, bro dap, all that shit is like, it's simple. Too much love, too much. So the space, the mirror of the Divine Feminine is really the only image that we have of what unconditional love, just being able to freely give love, looks like. So there's also a connection within itself where we have to redevelop that intimacy, and seeing the Knight of Air come up really reflects on the fact that that unconditional love is not being given out. Any love that's being generated is for one's own benefit. So having that energy come up, there's a reason that you're not able to manifest the things you want, because when you want to manifest, you're stimulating the collective. So you're not actually, you're just taking, it's like being a part of a community group, and you're only coming to show up for the free bag because when you show up that everybody gets a complimentary bag. It's like, okay, but have you contributed? Have you taken the time to put out one of your personal messages for the group so that they can share in the story with you? Have you contributed at all, or are you just in this unconditional love to just benefit for the residuals, for the free swag? And that's the issue, because there's a lack of acceptance, and it's hard for people to trust you. It's hard for you to trust yourself because it's a mirror, because you're always looking at people to see how trustworthy they are, just to the point to see if they're trustworthy enough to let their guard down and get finessed. So no one's able to trust one another, but everybody wants to connect. And we have the Knave of Wands, so there's all this enthusiasm, all this passion, but no experience. It's like everybody wants love, but there's no experience. So this is a call for you to tap into those gifts, but you're not tapping into your experience. You're jumping up off the emotion. You heard some good news, and that's all you have. You just have the good news. We got to make sure that we're discerning 10 of Cups, these feelings that we're having or experiencing this time, because there's a clash between the heart. There's a fullness or a subconscious fullness that went in or is going into what it is that you desire and love. But the Queen of Swords, there's a mental block of feeling like it's too far from you. Maybe most likely because you're not seeing it in front of you, or what you're feeling, the knowing or the authentic knowing that is resonating within your heart, is not matching up to the reality of what it is that you're seeing. So what does this look like? I know that I'm a goddess. I know that I'm a god. I know that I deserve respect, and that when you come to a god and a goddess, I make an offering. You come to me with respect. I deserve this. I deserve this raise. I deserve to be able to travel. But in reality, right now, in this present moment, when I look around, people are disrespecting me. People cut me off when I'm talking. People try to pay me pennies on the dollar. People are telling me I can't call off from work, even though I've been busting my ass. People are telling me that I don't deserve to have a genuine relationship, but you can get this one night stand. So there's a clash here, because are we going for the things that we want within our heart, that we know are true and that are building and are seeding, or are we settling? Are we looking at these things and we're settling because it's like, why does my mind not match up with the reality? So there's a new passion of purpose that we have to take into our awareness. There's some things that need to be healed within the heart chakra. There's some things that need to be let go. There's some things that you have to accept. Seeing Ayin come up in the crone phase is also a fact of letting you know that the wisdom that you're seeking, you may not have actually come into yet, and that some of the wisdom that you're going to experience or need to experience comes from having to live a little bit longer or to experience a little bit longer. So since there's things that you just still don't know, and adaptability is not going to come until you're in a more mature phase or state, that means that we got to start here in the present moment where we're most fertile, where we have the most energy. And where we have the most energy is with forgiveness. So we have the biggest opportunity with forgiveness. We have the biggest opportunity to simply, what does forgiveness mean? Let go and make space. What are we still keeping within our spaces, making us feel like we're crowded? Are we feeling crowded in our mind? What thoughts are we still holding? Why do we have to hold this perception about this person, about this job, about this thing that's clearly not happening in truth? Because if you have to hold a perception, that means that it doesn't exist within reality. So what is it that we're holding that is not serving us during this time? What is it that we need to grow up from? What is it that we need to develop a new relationship with? What is it that we need to have acceptance with? Maybe we simply just need to slow down. I will admit that this week has been very rushy and challenging, and it's fairly mentally weighing. And as you see people seemingly walking with what feels like a lack of complete apathy, you see fucking robots walking around stuttering and shit. You see all these people on this fucking vaccine. You see people rushing to make their dreams happen without consideration of others. There's a lack of empathy that's taking place, and then the calls and the reminders coming back to the divine feminine are asking us to put love back in. Like, motherfuckers are really forgetting basic social norms. Like, the youth are acting like they can't fucking speak or acknowledge. Adults are acting entitled as if you deserve to be spoken to. Just be like, I'm not gonna give you respect and speak to you, and you got a trash ass energy. And it's like there's such a disconnect going on, and people are just simply trying to go after their own shit. There's a lot of people trying to go after their own things and make sense of these awakenings and this war against the awakening, so to speak. But ultimately, I say all to say was definitely looking at the signs and message from the triple goddess, seeing Mama Killa in the moon. That definitely call awareness that during this time, as we're tapping into our deeper aspects, our evolving aspects, when you think on the wisdom of the triple goddess, what areas within the maiden, what inexperienced areas do you have within yourself that you can look at the phases that you can take the wisdom and actually grow from, and not do things the way that you were doing them before. And as we move to the wisdom of the mother, what phases do we find ourselves in? What's part of ourselves in the mother phase in our life that we're experiencing? Are we bearing the most fruit and abundance? What areas can we forgive ourselves and let that energy out so that we can receive more, so that we can manifest? Because this is where manifesting is the battery of manifesting and get started. So in order for you to have what it is that you desire, because these are overlaying, in order for you to have what it is you desire, you have to forgive someone, whether it's yourself or someone external, or a situation that didn't happen or manifest the way that you wanted to, because there was clearly something that you didn't know or you didn't have enough knowledge about. You simply just had the enthusiasm, and you got to own that shit. But as you take in that understanding, you actually are most likely stepping sooner into the crone phase. And this can give you new purpose and passion. This can help you to realize what it was that was missing, what it was that was lost. And you may be putting on a face to look strong, but really there's a sternness within you that you can turn to a positive instead of turning into a stubbornness and a closed offness. The things that you desire are actually still within reach. I hope that this message is actually resonating with you in spirit, and as we're moving through this weekend and we get ready for the weeks ahead, we get ready to wrap up this, really a lot of this Leo season, that you're able to take this mindfulness and really meditate on your heart chakra and the passions that you want during this time or have been wanting, and ask yourself if you've been lashing out and looking at the mirrors projected out around you, and have you been bitter? Have you been seeing relationships or just seeing people post on their Instagram about traveling and been bitter? How is your spirit supposed to bless you with the things that you desire if every time you ask for something, or your energy, your subconscious asks for something, I want to travel, I want a real relationship, and then you see a real relationship, you see a couple come around and you get jealous? Well, Spirit's like, oh, okay, my bad. I thought you wanted that. I see that you don't. Spirit always shows you what it is that you want before it gives it to you, because Spirit don't like to present you with a gift and then find out that you don't like it. That sucks. You ever present somebody with a gift, you paid $60 for it, and it's this nice ass thing, and then the person's like, oh, well, I can't use that. How do you think Spirit feel? So it's showing you, it's trying to get an idea what it is that you want, because listening in for the things that it's saying that you like. And by listening, it means feeling you out and the reactions that you make when presented with the thing that knows that you intrinsically want. Remember, Spirit is connected with your higher self. Higher self knows what you want, regardless of the self-sabotaging traits and your self-denial, the self-imposter syndrome, all that shit. So Spirit is connected to this, getting fed this. It's like, oh, okay, so you want this. And then when it presents it to you, it's like, oh, okay. So there's an unlearning, there's an adapting that we have to do, because some of us have not been changing our relationship with how we feel about the things that when they start to manifest within our energy field, we get mad because it's not ours. It's like, okay, well, first I had to see if you wanted shit. Oh, okay, now I know you want it. Let me start bringing that to you subconsciously. So you have to change how you're looking at the situations, and there's a retuning going on. You have to rewire and forgive yourself for how you've been looking at old situations, looking at current situations. Some of you are still looking at current situations with embitterment. Y'all can't smile, and y'all got to stick up y'all ass. You're so jealous and prideful of what people have that you can't even get it for yourself. So Spirit thinks you don't want any of those things. So you got to start loving, so the Spirit can know, like, oh, I haven't felt you feel good about anything that I presented you in a while, so I didn't know you wanted any of this shit. So let's change our relationship so that we can start feeling good, so Spirit can start understanding what the fuck it is that we're desiring. What is it that you desire? What is it that you're manifesting during this time? Where is your power? Are you just complaining, or are you just buying into fear? Let's truly walk in our power. This is a very auspicious time, because every present moment is an auspicious time. The present is the time of gifts. So that's where our power is. So let's walk in our love, walk in our power. Let's remember who the fuck we are. And I'm rooting for you. I'm rooting for myself. And as a collective, I think that we're really capable of creating these shifts and having the things that we want, especially when we're in a low state. Sometimes we lash out, and sometimes we do things to people because it's really just a reflection of the lack, or the emotional lack, of the things that we're going through. So we're learning to understand these things, and learning to understand ourselves allows us to heal from these things so that we can make these changes, make these strides, and grow for ourselves. So, because ultimately we all want to be happy. So let's continue to walk in that. Let's remember our power. Walk in love. Much love, many blessings, and Ashe.